Thank you all for tuning in. This is Iman and
Selena.
together we make you plus happy. Each week we bring you someone who challenges us to define success and happiness on our own term with a dose of laughter. No.
Remember to like and subscribe to the You Plus Happy podcast. You can also follow us on Instagram at You Plus Happy. Hi, Iman.
Hey, Selena. How are you?
Good. I'm going to talk about my week now.
Yes, tell me all about your week. What happened?
That was some behind the scenes stuff, y'all. Inside joke. So I needed to do something for my car. And it wasn't like mechanical, it was like paperwork stuff. And I really didn't feel like doing it. I had to drive an hour to do it. And I did it round trip. It was 2 hours. And it was before I had to work and all this. And I was like, you know what? I'm really glad I did it, because in the paperwork I got, they were like, if you don't do it by this day, we're going to charge you $20 every day until you do it. So in my 20s, child, I would have been like, well, I don't feel like doing it today. So I guess I'm getting charged. And then I would have had a $500 bill. So then I did it when it was supposed to be done. It was free. So it's just, it was just a reminder of like, just do stuff. And I'm not perfect. I'll still make mistakes. I'm not being like self-righteous. I don't always do it. But like, if you get something in the mail and you can take care of it, just do it. Just do it right away. Yeah. I was like, damn, if you live your life like that, it'll be easier.
Just do it.
Just take care of things when you need to take care of them. And then boom, you have a nice, easy life.
Just over there adulting. Get stuff done. I feel you.
That's just who I am now. I don't know. Anywho, what about you?
So this weekend I actually did some self-care. That was very much needed. So I went and got a 90-minute massage and it was amazing. It changed my life. It was so good. And as she was like massaging me, she was like, oh, it's very tight. And I'm just like, yeah. So I'm gonna try and make that part of my maybe monthly or every other month, we'll see, routine. Because I felt so much better. And like, I don't know, like when I get a massage, there's places that I didn't even know were sore and tight until they do it. And I'm like, oh, that's where I've been holding all my stress and like so it was amazing.
It was a woman masseuse.
And I usually want guys because I like deep tissue, but she was, and I got a foot massage. I've never gotten a foot massage because I'm super ticklish. And I was like, I don't know, I'm gonna mess around and kick you in the face. But she was good. She had a lot of pressure. So I was like, all right, I can handle this.
Even when I get pedicures, when they're doing the thing, I'm like, oh, wait, no, please. I'm like squirming. It's a mess. I even tell them to skip some of the tools because I can't handle it. You don't fall asleep during massages? I was about to say, I've only gotten one.
Amazing.
How do you know though?
Well, like I'm not in a deep sleep. Like I might doze off for like 5-10 minutes and then I wake up.
I've only gotten one massage because I felt forced when we were all together because it was somebody's birthday. So I was like, well, they all doing it, so I got to do it. I don't like people touching me, but I did love it, like you're saying, but I did fall asleep. Like it probably wasn't even 60 seconds, and I was like,
Did you sleep for the whole thing though?
Yes, I don't remember the massage, but I still woke up feeling good. And I also do that at meditation centers. Like I've been in meditation centers.
Oh, yeah.
I pass out.
Yeah. No, I can't. I feel like I can't fall asleep if someone's constantly like touching me. Like I might doze for a little bit, but then as soon as they touch something else, I'm up.
Really? I was thinking about going for another one, but maybe I'll drink some coffee before so I can stay up and know if it was a good massage.
I mean, it is kind of part of the experience, you know.
I felt great after it. Well, but I don't know what happened in that room.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try and do once a month. It was definitely needed and worth it.
You should. You work hard. You have a lot of jobs. You work out. You deserve it.
Thanks. As
Yeah.
do you.
I'm gonna do one soon because I feel the tightness. This is a hot
Mhm.
mess. So I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna live vicariously through you because I'm gonna probably sleep through mine.
All right. So, who do we have on this week?
This week we have Lauren Wrighton, who is a podcast strategist who has helped female business owners launch their chart-topping shows since 2017. She now uses her expertise to help freelancers become profitable podcast managers in her course, the Podcast Manager Program. You can also hang out with Lauren each week on her podcast, The Podcast Manager Show. Aside from podcasting, Lauren loves being a wife to her husband, David, and mom to her 3 young daughters. And without further ado, we welcome Lauren.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi,
How are
Lauren.
you guys?
Good.
Well, thank you for having me. First
Thank you
off,
for being here. Everybody ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, we're jumping right in cold. Okay. So, Lauren, what is a profitable podcast manager and how did you get started?
Yes. Yes, great question. Well, a profitable podcast manager is someone who helps manage a podcast. And I won't just define it as that, but what it means to manage a podcast is to edit it, to upload it, to write show notes, to create social media graphics. When you guys know, because you're podcasters, how much really actually goes into producing just one podcast episode.
Yeah.
So, booking guests, reminding guests, getting a headshot, a bio, all these little things that play a role in producing a podcast. Those are the things that a podcast manager can help with. And not all podcast managers do all of those things because you can also pitch your podcaster clients to be on other shows. So there's lots of different things that you can do. But really, the main tasks that a podcast manager does is edit show notes and promotional graphics.
Okay. How did you get started doing that?
Yeah, so I started a podcast about fitness with my friend back in 2016. I just had my first baby and I was working part time in fitness. I'd left my full time job to be a stay at home mom, but needed to make some money as well. So I thought part time fitness is going to be the perfect fit. I thought I was solid. I was not. It was not a good fit for lots of different reasons.
Yeah.
But my friend and I have always been into entrepreneurship and we're always trying something new. And so we decided we were going to come out with a podcast and just see where it would take us. And so we started this podcast and she'd come to my house every week and we'd record episodes. And I realized how much I loved the behind the scenes because I was the one that was editing and, I launched it, whatever that meant back then. And so I was doing behind the scenes and I realized this has to be a service that people are looking for. And the online business world was really up and running at that point. So I tried to become a podcast editor. I failed. And then I met someone who just gave me just enough information I needed to start back up and really make it work. So that's how it all got started.
It's so funny where things take you.
Mhm.
So I like that you brought that up, that the path may veer and
Yes.
you didn't say that, but basically you don't know where it's going to go.
For sure. And I think really it takes really a strong individual to allow their path to take them because we can get so tied to identity, like what we see ourselves as. I graduated from college with a neurobiology degree. So even doing fitness was a big pivot for me.
Yeah.
And I got this really great internship right out of college in fitness. And so I had a lot of this, people were proud of me because of that. And so even pivoting away from fitness then felt risky and felt like I was going to be letting people down. And yet at the same time, I didn't care because I knew it wasn't the right fit anymore. And so just letting your path curve because we can resist it, right? We can be like, no, I will be a doctor or whatever it is. And so letting it move and taking it where we need to go. I think it's, looking back, you're like, oh, I did that and I'm glad I did it. But in the moment, it can be tough.
Wow. That's so
So,
neurobiology.
yeah.
Yes.
But I
Wow.
guess, yeah, just going off of that, like what was, because that's a very difficult major, and I'm sure you had a certain like career in mind.
Mm.
What was kind of that turning point when you were like, no, this isn't for me, and I'm gonna go down this fitness slash podcast route?
hmm Yeah, it was a really clear moment actually.
Mm.
I was working in a lab over the summer between my junior and senior year. So I was at the university still working in a lab, and I was teaching fitness part-time in college for a little extra money. And so I was reading one of my first personal development books. It's Goals by Brian Tracy, because I know everyone always wants to know. It's Goals by Brian Tracy, and I was reading that, and something he had said in that book was, "What are the topics that you want to talk to people at parties, that you read about in your spare time, that you're just so fascinated with?" And although I did really love biology, it wasn't biology. Shockingly, it was not biology. And I was kind of mulling over those questions and wondering, like, am I going in the right direction? Because I did envision myself going to grad school and like having this career. But I was like, I don't really know how this is going to play out, because I was worried that it was going to be boring for me. And so I was kind of tackling this, and I was thinking about these questions that Brian Tracy had asked me through this book. And I worked out one day, and I got done with my workout, and I was like, oh my gosh, duh, it's fitness. Fitness
Mhm.
is the thing. And so I decided right then and there that I was going to change my major. I was going to pivot. Of course, it was too late to change my major. I guess I could have, but it would have cost me. I would have had to be in school for, I think, about 6 years. And I was going into my senior year. I was over it. I wanted to be done, you know? So I was
Yeah.
like, well, that's not gonna happen. So I did look into like taking my biology degree and then getting a master's in nutrition, because that would have kind of pulled them together. But I didn't get accepted into the master's program. That's the story there. Don't ever really tell that part of the story. But I did get this internship in fitness, so it allowed me to kind of pull my biology degree, which is not fitness at all. But people kind of think like, oh, it's about the body, so it
Yeah.
works, you know.
Mhm.
So then I got this internship, and it went on from there.
How did you deal with that rejection from the master's program? Was it the master's program
Yeah, yeah.
for nutrition? Yeah.
Yeah, it was this master's program. It was really, really research based, which is what I'd been used to. But
Mhm.
I just kept wondering, like, is this really the right fit for me? Research. And I wanted to do it because it was really like brainy. And
Mhm.
I valued that at the time. I mean, I still value it now, but I overly valued it back then. And it was like, oh, this is like, people are gonna think I'm smart, because I do this. And so I with that rejection was almost like a relief. Like, I don't have to do that anymore. I can do something that really feels fun and exciting, and those things are important to me.
Yeah.
I want to enjoy what I do. So it was honestly more of a relief than it was like it wasn't there wasn't really a lot of disappointment in that.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
how do you deal with because you said your values change. So I don't know how to
Mhm.
ask a question about values, but like recognizing that they shift. But what I also heard was, and this is different too, you stopped like kind of think because you were like, oh, people are going to think I'm smart if I do
Mhm.
this, if I do ABC, but I'm not doing this. Was there ever a time where it's like, well, I'm not going to worry about what people think anymore? And
Mhm.
did you go through that?
For sure, for sure. Like yeah, I valued my intelligence a lot back then. It was like I felt like I had to somehow prove myself,
Yeah.
and so a little bit of it was just growing up. I think it was just a natural evolution, as we all do. Thank goodness, right?
Mhm.
Um, and but really, it was doing personal development that made me realize that I was more. I wanted to focus more on what was going to be the right fit for me and what was going to bring me joy and was going to feel really like I was using my gifts rather than something that was just going to sound impressive. So I shifted it. I shifted my focus from what's going to be like the coolest thing that's going to be impressive to what's really going to like make me make me be okay going to bed every night and getting up the next morning and doing it. Like, I wasn't going to just do anything. I wasn't going to just get any sort of job. So I think that was the big change.
That takes a lot of courage.
For sure. And it sounds like you prioritize yourself in that
Mm,
journey. Before, it
mhm,
seems like you're kind of thinking about other people and you're like, no, what makes me happy and like where do I want to be?
mhm.
I guess like on your in your fitness journey, have you dealt with some challenges and kind of how did you push past that if you have?
Mm, yeah, yeah. So I started fitness back in 2008 and I was in high school. I was at it was the very end of high school and I was going to fitness classes all the time and I like begged the like head there to train me. And she like put me through this like fake certification program. A different story, but I then went to college and went to the fitness center in my college and said, "Hey, I can teach group fitness," which was kind of a stretch because like I'd been barely trained. And they were like, "Okay, cool, yeah, we'll hire you," like right off the bat. And my first challenge with when it came to fitness was getting thrown into the fitness teachers at college. I realized like I don't know anything. I'm so bad. It was like one of the first things that I was so bad at. So that I guess the first thing I one of the first things I was so bad at, but I wanted to be good at. It was like, oh shoot, if I want to do this, I have to work for it. And a lot of me was like, this is just a part-time job. Like I don't even this isn't what I'm studying. Should I even focus on it? But I decided to just keep going with it. And I'm so glad I did because it really did change my life. But then fast forward to 2016. Yeah, end of 2016, and I'd been teaching for a long time. But the fitness industry had changed a lot from like step aerobics and kickboxing. Those were all cool when I first started to like boutique fitness was in full bloom. And I was teaching at this like new boutique fitness place and I just had my first baby and I just wasn't accepted there. And it's still confusing to me to this day as to why, because I wanted, like, I was all in and they're like, oh, what you're doing is not resonating. Like, I just wasn't what they wanted. And that was really hard because, like I said, I'd really put a lot of my identity into, I left my full time job, had my baby, and this was going to be my thing. This was what I was going to do as a mom. And I was just running into a brick wall. And I realized like I just need to leave. Like this, I need to find out a new way. So that was really, really tough for me. And thankfully, podcasting was kind of ramping up for me at that point. And I kept teaching fitness at another place. But that was really the turning point when I realized uh, that it just wasn't something was telling me God, from my perspective, was telling me, like, hey, we're going in a different direction now, and you need to get on board.
You you mentioned some failures, right? What's your biggest takeaway from, and it doesn't have to be the ones you already mentioned, but just in general, what's your biggest takeaway from the failures?
Mm, I think my biggest takeaway is like when I have a failure and I have to make the choice of do I change what I'm doing or do I go harder? I think that's tough because it's like is what is this failure trying to teach me? I think just kind of listening to your gut and turning off everything else. Anyone else that's like, "Oh no, but you're so good at that," or you're like all the other voices that we have in our lives, just listening to our gut because like I said in the beginning with fitness, I needed to just recommit. And at the end it was like, no, it was time to go. And so I think if we just listen, for me, if I listen, I can know, okay, do I stay and do I just keep at it or is it a closed door?
Um, Side note, listen, how do you hear that voice? Like that, how do you hear it? Because right now, and I know I'm not the only person, and our listeners and everyone, you're trying to make a decision on something, you don't know what to do.
Mhm.
I know it's like listening to your gut. What if your gut's like, it's like we're asleep right now, we're not saying anything, you're on your own out there in the abyss.
Yeah.
Um, how do you get it to talk to you, or how do you know?
Yeah. See, I always used to think it was like a voice.
Okay,
Mine is not a voice. Like I
okay.
don't nothing is heard, but I feel it.
Mhm.
Like I'm in the midst of making a really big decision and and it's, well, I'll just be honest. I have 3 girls, and we're trying to decide, are we done having kids? Are we not done having kids? And
Mhm.
in this moment where it's like I really don't know,
Mhm.
I'm trying to listen, and I just give it time. Personally, I just give it time. If you can, like some things you don't have time, right? On your side. But if you have time, give it some time. And I just have a knowing. And I know that's not tangible. It's not great. But like I just sometimes I just know. And even if it's like, oh man, I wish this wasn't the right thing. I wish this wasn't the answer, but I know that it is.
Wow.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And you just know. So I don't know if that helps.
Yes.
No, it does.
Yeah.
But other questions or things that you're like thinking about as you're giving it time to kind of like
Mhm.
know, or is it just a feeling?
I don't think so. I don't, cause see, I even if I like ask people in my life what they think, I think that usually makes it harder for me. And
Mhm.
sometimes we just do because it's a career decision and we just talk about it or whatever, or people weigh in without us asking. But and so I think that sometimes will make it more muddy for me. But yeah, I don't think I ask questions. I just kind of I guess I just wait.
A
Mhm.
stillness and a just
Yeah.
I love that though. That like it makes me teary eyed because I was like, I was just literally this weekend, I was like, this makes all the sense. I don't want to do it. I don't like that one. But
Yeah.
it's like it's the most, it makes the most sense. But it's the thing
Mm,
I would hate to do. And
mm,
when you said that, I feel like it was confirmation. I
mm,
really do.
mm.
So anyway, that's my
Love
experience.
it.
You just
Love it.
said.
Yeah.
It sounds like just from what you've told us so far and like your journey, like you get an idea and you just kind of go for it. Like I could have
Mhm.
never imagined straight into college and just be like, oh, can I just run this route with no experience and just like a very quick training? Where does that come from? Like that,
Mm,
just kind of like motivation and courageous kind
mhm.
of.
Yeah. I actually just got done doing like a deep dive on what my strengths are through I took the Clifton Strengths. It used to be called Strengths Finder, but it's called I think just Clifton Strengths now.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I actually found out that self-assurance is one of my like top 5 strengths. And so it is what you're describing is like this confidence. And it so I used to think like my mom gave it to me, which I think she probably did because she is very confident. Uh, and it's funny because I know that about myself, but yet I know that it has its bad parts to it. You know, I can be like overly confident and just in like I shouldn't be, or like I shouldn't be allowed to be on stage like in the group fitness like no, that was not the right choice. I made it out of myself. But yeah, so I think it's one of those like if you can know your strengths, you can really leverage them. And so now that I know that about myself, that I have this self-assurance thing, I know that I can actually lend that confidence to others. So
Mhm.
when they're trying to make when they're trying to do something courageous, I can come and just you talk to them about it and show them what I see for them and like lend them that strength that I have.
Mhm. I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like there's so much just going off of strengths. There's a lot of times there's so much focus on how do I improve like my
Mm,
weaker areas
mhm,
as
Mhm.
mhm,
opposed to like, taking those strengths and saying like how can I use this to my benefit. So I love that
mhm,
you're able to kind of make that shift and
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I don't like focusing on my weaknesses. I'm too like I'm like, "Oh, I just like don't even wanna like think about it." I have like a very it's not just like a positive mindset, it's like a why even worry about that? Like,
Mhm.
like I make decision I can make some decisions too quickly, right? Like there's a good and bad of it all, but it's like, well, I also think at least I'm making a decision. You know,
Yep.
you can fix things, but you can't fix inaction.
So true.
So
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's like you've got to move forward with the best that you have. And so yeah, there's there's just I don't want to act like my strengths are the best ones because they're not. We've all got our goods and our bads, but
Yeah.
I definitely focus more on what I'm good at rather than what I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that test. I had to take that test recently, the Clifton.
Mhm.
I don't know. No, I think I took Myers, whatever. I took one of them. And I like how even with the strengths, they tell you where your downfalls could be. So you can be like,
Mhm.
okay, that's wait, because everything has a pros and a cons to it.
Right.
And I think that's an important part to take away from it. Shifting gears, way shifting. Um, what is something you hope people say about you when you're not in the room?
Ah, I hope that that people think that I am inclusive.
Mm,
That's something that's really important to me. We moved a lot when I was a kid, and I was always the new kid, and eating lunch in the bathroom and all those stories. And so that is so dear to my heart. Is like if there's someone that's left out in a social situation or just feels uncomfortable, like that just hurts my heart so much. So I think that like kindness and just being inclusive are really important to who I am as an adult.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
I love that. I think you're the first guest that's had that response.
yeah,
So,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I guess up until this point, what would you say has been kind of your biggest motivation to keep
mm.
going?
You know, I think just wanting to I don't it's like all the cliches come up whenever you ask that, and I don't wanna say the cliches,
Mhm.
because I wanna say the truth. I think just wanting to use whatever is given to me, to make other people's lives better or in my life better. I don't want just not it's not all selflessness. Part of me thinks like, "Oh, it's my girls, it's my family," but really I feel this like sense of I need to use my gifts for a reason. So that's really what drives me is like being my best and putting something out into the world that is helpful and useful and like that type of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we, Iman and I started the podcast, much like your friend. We have that entrepreneurial spirit. I know I never
Mhm.
said that word right, but y'all know what I'm saying. But we started the podcast because we're fascinated with success and personal development, and that was the same thing. Like that's what we like to talk about. That's what all our books were about.
Mhm.
What is and the whole reason for the podcast is so we can talk to people so they can redefine success for themselves. So, what is success to you?
Mm,
And when are you the happiest? Because I feel like a lot of people they associate those two.
mm, yeah, yeah. Success to me, and I think about this a lot, and I've actually like made definitions for myself. But so success right now is for me is really pushing myself outside of my comfort zone because I've reached a certain point now where it's like I work part time. I'm with my daughters a lot, which is really important to me, but I'm still growing a business and I'm like, gosh, this is amazing. This is so awesome. But then I'm still striving for the next level and stuff. So really what it means is like doing something that makes me feel uncomfortable because I'm finding it's harder. I don't know why for it's harder to push myself. It's like I'm just really comfortable. And, being content, I think is honestly great sometimes, but I wanna keep pushing myself. So going to the next level and really putting myself out there, that's kind of so if I know that I'm pushing the envelope for myself, I feel like, okay, I'm being successful in what I'm doing right now. But it also means peace to me. Like if I feel at peace, then I know that I'm on the right track. So there's a lot of things that I don't do on purpose because I know that it's going to disrupt the peace that I want in my personal and in my business life. So yeah, that's what I would say as far as success goes.
How do you
Mhm.
define peace?
Mm, I would say it's a more of a feeling for me of knowing that being able to sit in my own seat and be comfortable with where I'm at. So there's things that if I were to like I'm starting to travel a little bit more and it makes me a little nervous because I don't want to spend as much time away. I don't want to spend a lot of time away from my family, but I also know that I want to speak on stages and I want to go see like I want to go build my business outside of my home sometimes. But I know if I was gone like once a month, that would feel like too much to me. That would disrupt my peace. So I'm trying to find the balance of what this is going to look like. Maybe it's once a quarter, maybe it's less, but just like coming back to and saying, okay, does this feel right? Is this too much? Can I do a little more? And just listening to if I feel like I'm doing if I still have that sense of peace.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
You also asked about happiness, though. That's what I
Yeah.
was going to say.
Yeah.
I think happiness is so interesting
Mhm.
because it's so easy to chase and not obtain, in my opinion. Like when I was doing all this personal development in my early 20s and such, I had this idea of what my perfect day was. And it was like, oh, I would wake up and I would work out and I would it was like a future day. And I would like work on my business, my kids would be at school and all this, like I just had it all planned out. And then I had a child and I was like, "Oh, this is so hard." But I was working part-time and then my business was doing well and I had 2 kids and I was like, "This is exactly what I wanted, but mother, it is not easy." And I wasn't happy all the time. It's
Yeah.
tough. So I had to realize, like, I'm on the right path and I'm not always happy, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that something's wrong or something's off. So, for me, I can get caught up in chasing happy to
Mhm.
a point where I in a negative way. Instead, I try to focus more on the peace, more on joy, and more on, you know, using my gifts and those types of things because I can get happiness can kind of derail me sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess just kind of going off of that, but do you have like a happy place, like somewhere where you go or something that you do where you're just like, I'm just very happy in this moment?
Yeah. I many places. Yeah, many. If I were to think of like a physical place, I would say we just moved into a new house in April
Mhm.
and we built it, so we had to wait for it. So it's like extra good. It's like, "Ooh, we really earned it." And so we have a loft and there's a window in the loft and we moved to a new area as well. And this new area that we live in has like the best sunrises and sunsets. Like
Mhm.
incredible. And so in the loft at like 6:30 before my girls have gotten up, maybe my husband's awake, maybe not, I sit on the couch in the loft and see the sunrise. And oh, that is definitely one of my happy places.
So amazing. Can we come over?
It's right. Like, I need pictures right away. I'm sure they're on your Instagram. 'Cause
Yeah, the sunsets I put on my Instagram
yeah,
because I'm like, "This is crazy."
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess shifting gears a little bit. So we talk a lot about just success, and a lot of people that are on the show are entrepreneurs and just very driven.
Mm.
Um, but we feel like who you surround yourself is so important. So for you, what qualities and traits does someone have to kind of be in your inner circle?
Mm. I think, yeah, that's such a good question, and I totally agree, it really does matter. Um, it's hard when you, like, share your goals or, like, what you're up to, not even, like, your crazy dreams. Those are reserved for just certain people, right? But, like,
Mhm.
you just tell people what you're up to, and if they're like, "Uh," or just don't even they don't wanna know about it, I know, like, okay, that's a certain type of friend, I'm not gonna necessarily cut them off, but that's a certain type of friend. Maybe it's an old friend, maybe whatever, and I keep them in a certain I don't talk to them about my business really because I think that space, when you're growing a business, you have to like keep the encouragement around you. It's so easy to like question and self-doubt and all of that. You don't need it from outside sources. Like I
Mhm.
don't ask my husband questions about my business. Like he's not doing this. I talk to him about some stuff, but like if I'm trying to make a decision, he's not someone I go to, not because he's not encouraging, but because he's not in this world.
Mhm.
Like I go to my business friends. And so as far as characteristics that I look to is like that person who's probably building their own business. They get it. They get all the things. Just an encourager. But I feel like being in the ring with you is so important because it's like their head is on the chopping block as well.
Mhm.
So you can keep each other up and lifted up. But then someone that's just pushing themselves to the next level, who's working on their weaknesses, and who dreams crazy. It's really hard to share those wacky, wild dreams you have with someone that does not get it. And it's okay if they're not like that, right? Your certain friends aren't like that, but like when you meet someone who's as crazy of a dreamer as you are, you're everything safe with them. They get it.
I'm
I
so
love
glad you said that. I think that's such an important thing because we have so many people in our lives who we love, who we respect, who we trust, and they're well-meaning. And of course, if you don't know people who, like you described, and you're starting something new, you go talk to those people because those are your friends and family. Those are the people you trust. And they can say something very well-meaning, but very, very discouraging because they don't get it. And I think even if they are big dreamers, but they're in a different industry and they may not understand. They may ask important questions, but they still may be a little discouraging because they don't understand. And again, it's well-meaning. But I think what you said is, I just wanted to drive it home and say how important it is because I know along my journey, like I've been discouraged and kind of and stopped because someone I said, because it's in the beginning, it's like when it's a little baby or even a thought, it's so easy to say, to let it go, or like, oh, it won't work, especially if you haven't seen anyone around you who has made it work and you're doing it by yourself. It's really, really important to keep it sacred and close to the vest, under the head. Like, just keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, there's certain people that like, they'll get an idea and they'll put it all together and they'll throw it out into the world. And I also like love that because then people can cheerlead them.
Yeah.
But, when I was first starting out as a virtual assistant before I became a podcast manager, that's kind of part of my story. I didn't tell anyone because I was like, I had failed at an MLM. I had failed at like, I'd failed and failed and failed, and they were all lessons, but I'd already I'd already gone public with stuff that I was like, this has to work before like I'm gonna tell anybody. So yeah, it's like I found people online that were doing the same thing, that were that had the same kind of thoughts. And you just bond to those people so quick because you're like, oh my gosh, you're me.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're not even that much alike, but you're alike in this way, and no one else is like you in this way in your personal life that you just bond so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I learned that lesson early on. If it's something big to me, I keep it a secret. And then after it's done, I'm like, this is done. And you can take it or leave it, pal. But it's like, keep it low key.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you, so this is a really weird question. So if it's too weird, just
I'm
edit
excited.
it out. But you're very well spoken, and I know, like, obviously, but a lot of like you're the second person that we've had on that's like, that I remember, that's so concise, direct, short, quick answers, knows how to stop yourself. I am a rambler, so I'm like, is that a technique? Is that something you practice? Like, talk to me.
That is such a compliment. I have not always been this way at all.
Okay.
So I think that it's because of two things. Well, it's because of podcasting, because my friend and I had this show. She still has it. I did it with her for about 2.5 years, and then
Wow.
I stopped. So we did many, many episodes, and I was editing myself. And so, yeah, it's like when you edit yourself, whoa, if you can come at it still loving yourself, you are a strong person. So I realized, like, oh my gosh, Lauren, you make your point and then you just like make it in 25 different ways. Oh wait, I'm echoing.
I don't know.
And then you talk more and then you end. Like, I noticed that about myself. And so I have tried to just, it's not really, I don't think more about my answers. I think I just stop myself when I'm like, okay, you did it. You made your point. You can stop.
You are not lying. When I edit the episodes, I'm like, oh my God, this is embarrassing.
Right.
Like, edit. I'm glad he mocked, because neither one of us were producing at first. I'm glad I was the one who had to produce. At the time, it just made sense for our schedules. And it taught me a lot. I was like, woo.
Yes,
I love
exactly.
that. And then, and if anyone's thinking about this who's listening, I know that this wasn't the question, but even with my accent, before the podcast, I would record myself on like business calls, like even with like insurance companies. I'm like, oh, fix your R's, fix your twos, and like that. It was really, really helpful with my accent because I didn't want to sound like a buffoon on the phone.
I don't even yeah, I don't even hear it. I talk really fast, and that's one thing that I have to consciously think about. Like, it has not gotten better with the years. When I get excited, I just talk even faster. So, I will do like, for my podcast, I'll do episodes where I don't breathe for like 10 minutes.
Wow.
I just talk, and I'm like, at the end of the 10 minutes, I'm like, "Oh, that was not good. I need to
Yeah.
breathe. I need to
Yeah.
chill."
Do you get tired of talking?
Eventually, yeah. I
Yeah.
actually am an introvert. So I'm like very like extroverted and love being with people, and I will talk to everyone in a room, but then when I go home, I'm like totally turned off. I
Mhm.
just like crash,
Yeah.
and not really crash, I guess, but like I just turn off completely and I have to recharge alone, and then I can go back out into the world.
Mhm. Me too.
I can relate. Definitely an introvert. So
Yeah.
I understand the needing that like time to just kind of recharge and
Mhm.
get back,
Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So you, I saw in your bio that you mentioned your faith. And
Mhm.
so is that okay to talk about? Because
Yeah.
okay. Um, so I, I saw something about being young in your faith, right? Like,
Mhm.
not you, but just anybody who is
Mhm.
starting out with it.
Mhm.
I don't know how to ask the question to be appropriate. I want to be sensitive. How do you start off? How do you, because I know
Mhm.
reading scriptures can be really tricky. I read Daily Bread every day, and I'm just some of the stories. I'm like, some of the scriptures, I'm like, what? I don't. And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
so, how do you start out? Like, how do I would imagine that's a big part of your life and how
Mhm.
you make your decisions and what helps you. Um, and maybe this is a little self-serving, but I love that. I want to grow more in that. And I would
Mhm.
love to hear about how do you get better? How do you understand?
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
So I grew up Catholic,
Mhm.
and but not like I don't even know, like kind of Catholic, kind of not. Like I feel like so all of our journeys are so with faith are so just messy, so it's very messy oftentimes. And I always like felt a connection with God, and I always like knew that it was going to be part of my life long term, but I definitely like knew so little growing up. So
Mhm.
I grew up I grew up with faith, but it's nothing like it is as an adult.
Yeah.
And I kind of fell out of it, of course, in college. So many people say that because it's just a hard time in life to continue.
Mhm.
And I met my husband, and he grew up. His parents are just, I guess the word is agnostic, like don't believe
Mhm.
in a higher power. So not like atheist. I think there's a difference. I'm not sure. They don't like identify as anything, but my husband had like no idea about anything. And so him and I have gone on a really interesting journey together. And number one, we met each other as freshmen in college, and we actually made it out of college dating. We think that is like the goal. The Lord was with
There's a
us.
God right there.
Exactly. The fact that we changed at the same time, like we
Yeah.
kept changing at the same time, like, that was not our doing. But to your question of like, how do you get better? How do you understand? Like, I didn't understand scripture. I didn't really understand like how to connect with God and Jesus and stuff. So what really made a big impact on me when I was kind of going in through this was probably maybe 7 years ago, was um like reading and listening to devotionals where someone else was explaining. I was used to going to church where like they would do a homily and it wouldn't resonate with me at all. And I thought that was just what it was always like. But but like having someone talk and explain those scriptures like you're saying is so you're like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And just doing that consistently, even if it's once a week, then it wouldn't even necessarily have to be every single day, but like listening to someone explain it to you, for a year, for 2 years, oh my gosh, it's the world of difference.
Mhm.
It really, really unpeeling. And it's a long journey, I think. It's a long journey to understanding it all.
Mhm.
Like there's layers that I'm like, "Oh, I'm so glad that this layer has been shared." Like I can see the different dimensions or something, about my faith and stuff. So, yeah, and then I also joined a small group I think it might have been like 2 or 3 years ago, and I got so lucky. I was with, like, just these women that were, like, just powerhouses, and
Mm,
I'm like, was felt so lucky to be in a group of women who were, like, about personal development, but still, like, wanted to grow their faith, and so, like, actually meeting people that I felt like I connected with, that was a huge blessing. So, I would say those 2 things have helped me and maybe could help you as well.
yeah, yeah, thank you. And anyone listening who might be in that phase, because I don't like to talk about it publicly because it's such a touchy subject. And then
Mhm.
I still curse and like do
Right.
things that might be bad, and like I don't want to be like a hypocrite. But yeah, I really do appreciate that. And I think it's important if it's something that resonates with you.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you guys know who Nicole Walters is, but she is like one of my favorites because she talks about her faith, but she
Mhm.
also says that the holy water is still sinking in. She's
Mm.
like, I will do things all the time that are like, I'm just new still. I just, she says that I'm just like, it gives us all grace.
Yeah.
And it is hard to align yourself with like, just going all out and saying like I'm Christian or whatever because that means a lot of different things to different people. And I try to focus more on, like, my personal relationship with God
Yeah.
because it can get I like you're saying, it can get sticky
Mhm.
when it's just, it's a messy thing, but important.
I love that you put it in your bio because I wouldn't even have asked. And I think I know I said that word already and I don't want to overuse it, but I think that is courageous and it might not seem like it, but on social media and like
Mhm.
people don't talk about that unless they're like that kind of page only from what
Mhm.
I've seen. And so
Right.
even you putting it in your bio opens the door for people to ask about it because you didn't mention it before and I wouldn't have
Mhm.
asked you about it. And I'm glad I did. If I benefit from it, I'm sure one of our many listeners will benefit as well. So I think it's wonderful to share and talk about.
Mhm.
I think it's helpful. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I feel like just kind of hearing your story and like what you're doing, it sounds like you have a lot of kind of things on your plate, but that you found some type of balance to like make. Because I know for me, like sometimes I'll get so focused on one thing and then everything else kind of gets pushed to the side.
Mm.
What do you have certain routines or like something that you do either in the morning or at night to kind of make sure you have time for like yourself and that self growth and development?
Yeah, yeah. Uh My morning routine has really, like, fluctuated through the years. It, like, depends on, have am I pregnant? Am I breastfeeding?
Mhm.
Is my baby waking up in the middle of the night? Like, I love a good morning routine, but that has fluctuated for me. But I
Mhm.
am I have let things fall to the wayside. Like, not everything can be important at the same time, right? So if
Yeah.
like, the way that I take care of myself is by like growing my business. Like that is so fun to me. And so I focused a lot on that and it's obviously beneficial for a lot of reasons, but like my like self-care, like my like beauty and all that stuff, fell so far to the wayside. I just like would rep the like grunge look or something. Like just like the roll out of bed vibe and just hope that it worked. Put on some makeup. But I've been trying to really unlearn that and because I think like I see myself as like, oh, I look great all the time. And so then I don't really care what I actually look like. And it's not just about what I look like just relearning, uh, doing things that are not like productive, resting.
Mhm.
Mm.
And I rest, but it's because I'm like exhausted. It's like I have to rest.
Mhm.
So actually this past weekend, I took we're recording this on Sunday. So like literally this weekend, I booked a hotel 45 minutes from my house. My husband held down the camp for the whole weekend and I worked. And I didn't really even work that hard. I like ran, I took a shower, I watched TV in my hotel bed. Like I just like was just me. And
Mhm.
I really, really needed that. And I probably needed it like years ago,
Mhm.
but it would have been so hard for me to do years ago. But I've been slowly learning like going 100 miles per hour is not possible if I and that's my speed. That's just like my normal speed. And so that's not going to be possible if I don't take time to like recuperate. And so I can't be the mom I want to be. I can't be the wife I want to be. I can't be the business owner I want to be if I am always, number one, putting everyone else's needs first. And I want to prioritize other people's needs. That's important to me, but I can't always do that and not take time to take care of myself. So it's still a struggle for me.
Mhm.
I
That
love that.
sounds
Yeah.
glorious.
It was. It was. It was great.
You gotta park the car sometimes. Can't go 100 miles.
Yes, exactly. You got to park the car. Got to fill
Yeah.
it up with some gas.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah.
Um,
I was just gonna say, I love that you brought up, because I feel like I struggled with that too. Like, if I wasn't productive, like I felt like something was wrong. So like relearning how to just relax. Yeah, I feel like that's
Mhm.
such a good
And
just
like I
being.
even use an excuse to relax, like, oh, but I'm so tired, so I have to relax.
mhm.
But it's like, no, we can just relax because we want to. We deserve downtime, not because we're exhausted, not because everything is done, but because like it's okay. And like allowing space in my life for that and not filling my plate up so much that I can't rest. I can't prioritize my beauty. I can't, prioritize this or that. Like it's all such a balance of all of, oh goodness. Yeah.
Love
I've been
it.
feeling bad because I've started a lot of things, even with the podcast, and I even feel guilty now when I'm like I need to relax. And so I like that you guys brought that up. It's so important. When when you want something so bad and you want things, it's so hard. You and then we listen to a lot of this personal development stuff. Iman and I were talking about this in our last episode of like these successful people, like you don't sleep, you don't do this. And I was like, well, I can't eat her. I told him, I was like, well, I can't eat or sleep. And then she's like, something she listened to was like, sleep faster. And it's like, and then and I was like, I'm gonna have to sleep faster. And they're like feeling super guilty for even resting without like, I have to, or I'm burn out, or I'm gonna like pass out, like not even getting to that point. Just like I would need to rest. Just I don't even know how to get rid of that guilty feeling of, and I love that you were able to, if I went to a hotel and to do the same thing, I would, well, oh, what's this and what, and it's just like turning it down and calming down and giving giving yourself that time.
Yeah. And since I framed this weekend as like a work weekend, number one, it allowed me to be like, oh, I am allowed to do it because it's a work weekend. And then when I shared it on Instagram and people were in my DM saying, like, oh, I hope you were so productive. And I was responding and saying, I wasn't. Like, I have to keep saying that to myself. I have to keep saying it out loud and say, like, if yeah, did I do something that's going to be life changing to this weekend? Probably not, but maybe I did need that rest so much that it is going to be life changing. But like I wasn't 100% productive, and I'm like totally fine with that. And I know that's like a huge thing for me. Like I'm like, oh, growth. This is growth. But then like to your point of like when you're first starting something and you feel like you can't rest and like hustle. I feel like people are like, you love it or you hate it. And I think in some points it's like we have to be really diligent with our time. We can't just piddly it away. But that doesn't mean that you're on all the time. Like one of my early mentors said that when she was first starting her business, she didn't go to any baby showers, any bridal showers, like anything that was like that type of extra thing. She said no to for like years. And I thought about that for a long time. Like, what would it look like for me? And I viewed it as like I was so all in on my business that I would say no to those things. And I realized like I just don't want that example to be part of my, like, can I just take a little bit longer to build my business and still go to those important things in my life? Yes, I had to say yes to that. Do I need to go to every single thing that I'm invited to? No. But am I going to miss something important? Probably not.
Like finding that balance within it all.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that so much. I feel obligated to say yes to everything. Not to say, but you can't say yes to everything. But if I said no to everything, I'd be miserable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And who wants to be miserable? Hello.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or you'd be uninvited to everything and
oh
you'd
my
be like,
God, yes.
oh shoot, what did I do? Yeah.
Damn, I just thought I told you I cursed. Sorry. I just said damn. But it's so funny because Iman interviewed me one time for the show and I interviewed her. But on mine, my success was my friends and family. If I don't have them, I don't feel successful. So I don't care how big I get in a business. If I don't have my friends, I don't care. It's like I don't want to be lonely at the top. That's not my idea of success at all.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
a really good point. I could start saying no to everything and then I don't have no friends.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like if you were only friends with people who were hustling as hard as you were, then they wouldn't be available. They'd be too
Yeah.
busy. They'd be too
Yeah.
busy as well. Like there's and it's weird too, like if you have this vision of who you want to be or who you're gonna be in a couple of years or whatever, and then you like go to just like your normal like family barbecue and you're like, wait, like how are these two things gonna work out? You then see like if I have all these goals, like these people are coming with me. These are my, and maybe there's some people that you don't want to come with you, but like there's people we do want to bring with us. And so like I'm always who I am to like my siblings. But I'm also trying to reach for crazy things. And I just try to slowly bring them on board without being like, hey, we're going to be millionaires, like without totally freaking them out. But I just try to like bring them with and share a little bit about my business as I go. To as much as they're interested in hearing.
You'll just show up in your jet. They'll be like, oh, we're millionaires. Got it. Okay.
Got it. It happened.
Get on, guys.
Right.
I love it. I feel like you've dropped so much like wisdom throughout this whole thing. But if you had like one piece of advice for our listeners who are wanting to start their own business, maybe thinking about a career change, what would that be?
I'd probably say just do something. Like I said earlier, like you can work with mistakes. You can't work with inaction. And so I would say like something that I'm so glad I did was I just did something. I just started an MLM. It didn't work out. I have regrets from it, but like they're not that big of regrets. And I probably shouldn't have any, but I did something which led me to the next thing. And that thing didn't work out, but I learned a lot. And I also, my husband, who was my boyfriend and my fiance at the time, like saw like I was gonna do something. Like he got wind of she's gonna be doing something. She's gonna be doing something that's not traditional. And then I tried something else and it didn't work out. Like I literally just kept trying. And it was because I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I felt silly at times. I felt like I questioned it at times, but I was like, this would be so great if it worked out. And now, and I don't say this to be cliche, but now I am so much more grateful for my success because of how long it took me. So I hope that if you're listening, it doesn't take you that long. It doesn't take you, I think it took me like 7 years of me off and on doing things. I hope it doesn't take that long. But if it does, you're still there. You still get to the success part. And so it's like, how long will it be worth it? Because I think I probably could have done it for another 10 years and I would have still kept going because I wanted it that bad. Maybe not. I don't know.
Now you don't have to find out.
Exactly. I don't have to know. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
I know we're short on time. I just have one more question. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So because this has come up in a previous podcast, because you're I can tell, just very driven and like you have this entrepreneur spirit. Is your husband similar in terms of like that entrepreneurship? And okay.
No, he's not.
Okay.
He's not at all. I did force him to take the strengths test that I took because like I have to know his strengths. So he works in insurance and he's not like we're actually very similar in a lot of ways, but not in this way. So he probably will never own his own business. I used to dream of like my business doing so well that I like retired him. Do you guys like kind of remember? I feel like women were like, I retired my husband. And I like thought that was like my goal for him,
Yeah.
which we can't do that for people in our lives. We can't make goals for them.
Yeah.
I used to be like, just try to like get him to do things. And finally, I don't know what the switch was. I don't know, maturity or something, or just gave up. I just eventually was like, that's his decision. Like if he wanted to work, in my business, he'd probably ask. So I don't need to like pressure it on him. And now I just am like totally fine with whatever his drive is, wherever he's headed. I'm all in on supporting him, but my success is mine, and he has so much to do with it, of course, but I don't need I don't need him to be on the same path. I can do this on my own, and he's a really great supporter. So that's he's doing his own thing.
Yeah.
Love it.
I think that was a really important point. Like, 'cause when you're single, I think you feel like your spouse has to be almost just like you, especially when it comes to career. Not just like you, but in some similarities. And you guys are completely different. That's amazing.
Yeah. We're very different in this way.
Well, we're ending right on time, I think, right?
Yeah, love it.
Thank you. It was really, really nice meeting you. It was really nice talking to you. I'm so glad that we connected.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's been so great.
And we're just going to do a quick outro if you'll stick around for that. Okay. So again, we're going to thank you, Lauren, for sharing your time with us and inspiring our listeners to redefine success for themselves.
And of course, thank you, listeners. We could not do this without you. Remember to hit like and subscribe and share this episode. We always want to hear your feedback. You can subscribe at U Plus Happy. We're also available on YouTube at U Plus Happy and Instagram at U Plus Happy.
And we'll see you next week, same time, same place. And we ask our guests to say our tagline, which is, we'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours.
Okay. We'll show you our definition of success if you show us yours.
Yes. Hey.
Yay. Yes. I read that on your IG right before. So I was like, okay, wait, I have heard this once before.
Great.